obviously support this very important motion. Indeed, I'm somewhat taken aback by the amount of rancour that this motion generated. As the elders of 10 children who, back in the 60s, when times were extremely tough, I'm acutely aware of how difficult the circumstances were. I want to focus my remarks on the substance of the Labour Party's motion, but it appears that some people are peeved with the fact that it is an extremely comprehensive and important motion in the context of ensuring every child in our republic is given a fair start. This is an emphasising of the objective that was set out by the first parliamentary leader of the Labour Party, Tom Johnson, in 1919, something that we only commemorated 100 years ago. Now, it further appears that some people in this House would by attempts at bullying or intimidation or something else, try to circumscribe our rights to pursue political actions or policies. Well, let me tell them that as somebody whose grandmother stood in the 1913 lockout, we will not be bullied by or intimidated by anybody. We will bring forward policies on the floor of this House that were legitimate and correctly mandated by the people we represent. And we would peg those people one side who try to bully or intimidate. We've had enough of that, or name calling. That is not good enough. Name calling, and it shouldn't be allowed, Chairperson. And it will be seen further, because that is not what's appropriate in this House. I'm 27 years, good at 27 years here, and I've never seen such rancour or name calling. But before I do that, I want to bring members of the House. The question of the Labour Party's record has been brought up and how it affects people. Let me put a few facts on the record. Has anyone forgotten that the economy was crashed at Fianna Fáil's time, before Labour came into government in 2011? I saw somebody the other day saying that the houses weren't built from 2008, that Labour were responsible. That's the type of misleading and facts and fake news that's out there. That's the type of stuff. I went in to that department and talk about an effort to try and save 36 million for the disabled persons grant. I recall it very clear. I fought my guts out, and 2 million was taken. And I can tell you, the Troika and their minions wanted to take everything.
Great latitude. You're speaking to an amendment.
I'm entitled to put on the record.
Deputy, the rules apply across...
Well, you didn't apply the rules a few minutes ago.
Deputy,
does anyone deny that a wide range of cuts to public spending has been brought in before Labour came into government? When Labour came into government, unemployment was 15% and it was 8.8% and fallen fast when we left. There was 500 million a year available for jobs fund, and 40,000 training places were made available annually to get people back to work. I remember I was involved with the minimum wage, and we reversed that because I was involved. I was delegated by the Labour Party to ensure that happened, and that meant 3,000 a year went to every full-time worker by reversing cuts to the minimum wage and raising it further. There was real help for families and children, and more help than protest or marches. Household income rose when Labour was in government, and inequality fell. Material deprivation fell by a third during our time in office. And at the same time, we managed to reduce the national debt to deficit so that Ireland could exit the Troika programme. Because you can bet, and I can vouch for this, as somebody who's sitting at that table at Oireachtas, that the Troika would have cut very severe and far more savagely if the Labour Party had not been in office to protect people. I was there, I know it. Because what about the free GP service? Children for children under 60 years of age. That was the first tranche of the commitment for universality in that area, and that's extremely important. I know how it's like to meet families with 50 and 60 euros to have to try to get the GP, and people welcomed that. But of course, it was cut out in the whole stream of things that this didn't happen at all. There were over 2,200 estates unfinished when I was given the portfolio I had for 9 months before I resigned. And loads of people, including people in this House, told me to knock the houses, demolish them. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was about 4 estates demolished. But I set up a programme to make sure they were finished over a period of time, providing a few million here and there to local authorities. And anybody can check the record. And they were finished. And some of them, of course, were built in the wrong places, I admit, bad planning and everything else. And we had to carry that can as a legacy of the Celtic Tiger. I could say a lot more, but let people make up their own minds in a fair and objective way about what parties and politicians who did their best for the people in dire circumstances for the country when it was at a difficult time. Labour has brought forward this motion at Oireachtas tonight on a fair start for every child, in order to send a clear message to the government that their policies are simply not adequate to achieve what they promised. They have achieved some achievements, and we acknowledge that. We're not churlish. If the government does some good things, let's be clear, let's be honest, let's be saying that they've done some very good things. Minister Capo and yourselves have done some good things. But now that we're in a better place, we need to accelerate the delivery of the objectives. Labour likewise brought forward this motion, as I said, to remember the democratic programme of the first Dáil and the spirit of 1919, when the people of Ireland, for the first time, democratically elected representatives who they hope would deliver a people's government, which would address the pressing needs of the people in terms of the dire poverty that was commonplace at that time. We have a vision. It's outlined in the motion. Other people may have a different vision, but I'm sure Fianna Fáil has a vision, and fair play, and we'll compliment them. We don't think that we have a divine right, like what some people think, that our view is the only one. This is our contribution in terms of trying to make improvements. And if somebody comes forward with amendments that we feel are adequate or more positive, let it be Sinn Féin, let it be Deputy Kenny or anybody else, we will be on board. We're in a new era. We can't always hark back to the past. If we do, by looking in the rear view mirror, the only thing you'll get is a crick in your neck. We're looking forward how we can help young people get a fair start from the cradle right through, and particularly for the first 10 years of life. It's very important. I know all about that. And then get an opportunity for young people, no matter where they come from, no matter what background they're from, that they have an opportunity to go to second level education. And in fairness to Deputy Rabbit, Fianna Fáil gave us that through Donogh O'Malley in the 60s, and I salute that. Do you think I'd say that was bad? It was a brilliant policy. And of course he did the thing, he went off and he did it on his own bat, fair play to him. You can't be the minister with that initiative, and we need more ministers like that now. He wasn't circumscribed by the bureaucrats, as I call them. He went out and did it, and fair play to him. He's left an everlasting legacy, one that I would never have survived. I personally gained from that, and I'm very thankful, and I remember that. So just because somebody else comes forward with a policy doesn't mean that we have to be out there decrying it. We should be all pulling this. I'm surprised that we're not pulling the rope the one way in this. I was surprised at the level of rancour. I've never seen such bitterness or rancour. That type of thing. And of course, when you're nettled and when you didn't come forward with the idea at the motion, maybe that's the reason. There's always a reason. But in any event, Labour's vision as outlined in this motion is for all children in Ireland to have an equal chance to fulfil their pension. And that was the promise in 1919. And it hasn't been delivered on. And we all have to hold our hands up. And now is the time to start, that we can try and get and achieve that objective. And as I said, by 2019, here now, we still haven't achieved so many of the basic aims that were there in that policy. You know, that universalism, you know, focusing on having a fair start, that universalism is the fundamental challenge of government. You know, we all talk about wanting to serve service in that regard. All belonged to me had to go to England in the 50s. And I remember, I was over to Uncle died there in 82, a few months back. And the health service is good enough. But every time they went down to get someone who were ill, there was a prescription charge every time. Don't be always saying, and he used to say, and that man, he worked morphine, McAlpine, the whole shebang. He worked it all, and hard working labouring man. He used to say, cheekers, the old home side is a great country. They were getting 10 pence or something on a fare every week. They got £100 for a fuel allowance if it dropped below so many degrees. That's what he got at the end of spending 60 years. So, you know, don't be always decrying what we have. We mightn't have achieved everything we want, but we're on the road, and hopefully we're on the road to improvement. So it's not good enough, I think, that if 9 and 10 children are securely housed. It's not good enough if 9 or 10 children get a good education. Our goal as a parliament, as a people, as members of this House, is to look into the reasons why there are some people left behind. If there's 1 in 10 left behind, we must examine that and ensure. That means understanding the reason for homelessness and addressing the root cause of homelessness, as outlined by my colleague John O'Sullivan. It means removing legal impediments to equality, and nobody can say that we were not at the vanguard of that. We were at it at great personal cost, at party political cost, in relation to marriage equality, all those things. If there's anything that's hurt, we apologise. We're big enough. We're big enough. But we don't go around telling people to go and strike every other day, or we don't go around telling to get rid of 5,600 workers out of Intel, as I heard some of your colleagues say. So we know that the most effective way to ensure long-term sustainable economic development is to invest in early childhood education, as my colleague Sean Sherlock has emphasised, but that will require major planning and investment to make that reality. Labour and government has an impressive track record of delivering real improvements. We saw the country through an appalling period of economic collapse, but now there's money available, and the challenge now is for the government to deliver, and it's probably for all of the children of this state.
Thank you, Deputy Penrose.